I never thought environmental issues were my passion, but looking back, I realized that moments throughout my life were connecting the dots. In 2013, I attended the Dalai Lama's Environmental Summit in Portland, Oregon. I remember thinking, what does the Dalai Lama have to do with the environment? That was my ignorance at the time. He brought together leaders from different religions not to convert anyone, but to talk about shared responsibility for this planet. His message was simple: our home planet Earth is in danger. We are leaders of our communities, and we need to work together to solve this. I left that room with a lot of question marks in my head. In 2012, a friend invited me to watch his documentary about the global sushi industry. Technology had made it possible to transport fresh fish from Japan to the other side of the world in fresh condition. Suddenly, the demand for certain fish exploded. Bluefin tuna became so valuable, a single fish could sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction in Tokyo. Industrial fishing allowed us to catch enormous quantities, faster and faster. Large predators, such as tuna and sharks, play an important role in maintaining the balance of ocean ecosystems. But increased demand and overfishing have put enormous pressure on these species. At the same time, rising ocean temperatures are creating even more challenges for marine ecosystems. A landmark 2003 study published in Nature estimated that large predatory fish had declined by roughly 90% from pre-industrial levels. That number stayed with me. After watching the documentary, I stopped eating tuna. It has been almost 14 years. I love bluefin tuna, but I can live without it. It was simply my way of doing my part and doing what I felt was the right thing to do. Years earlier, in 2007, we went to Antarctica. We heard the captain had to pick up a new local navigator because the ice was changing so quickly the old routes were no longer as reliable. I remember thinking interesting, but I did not really understand what it meant. I stood there watching emperor penguins with their cute short legs, chubby round bodies, and little wings that can't make them fly. I learned how dependent they are on the sea ice around them. As the ice changes and melts, the environment they depend on becomes increasingly unpredictable and dangerous. Again, it did not completely hit me at the time, but that memory stayed somewhere in the back of my mind. When my daughter was young, we visited a dam on the Columbia River to watch the salmon. Behind a glass window, an environmental scientist sat quietly counting salmon one by one as they passed through the fish ladder. I remember thinking what a simple job, he just counts salmon. Then he explained why he was counting them and how salmon losses could accumulate as they passed through multiple dams. Today, NOAA reports that migrating juvenile salmon and steelhead in the Columbia and Snake Rivers can pass through up to 8 dams on their journey to the ocean. It made me realize that when we disturb a natural habitat even a little at a time, the impact can accumulate year by year. Another memory that stayed with me. I lived in Oregon. When I first moved there, the weather seemed almost predictable, about 3 months of sunshine and 9 months of gray and rain. But over the last 20 years, I have watched it noticeably change. The summers became hotter, and the weather became more extreme and unpredictable. And I noticed something else. When environmental challenges hit, the people with the fewest resources often suffer the most. The people with no air conditioning during extreme heat, inadequate shelter during extreme cold, and few resources to adapt or escape. I saw that firsthand through a homeless shelter where my daughter used to volunteer. She would share with me how sad she felt seeing homeless people suffering through extreme weather. Seeing her sadness broke my heart. And it isn't only local. Around the world, floods, droughts, extreme heat, and environmental disruption are increasingly affecting where and how people can live. Climate-related displacement and migration are already happening, especially in vulnerable communities and countries. And this is where the next part of my story begins.